Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 397. We've got a great guest, folks. We've got Adrian, Tobey from Groundhogg. I've been looking forward to this interview. I know I say it regularly, but I actually have been looking forward to this. And Adrian seems to have the right attitude for this program, actually. Adrian, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I've also been looking forward to this podcast. I'm super excited. My name is Adrian. I am the founder and CEO of a marketing automation plugin for WordPress called Groundhogg. We started not too long ago, actually. Just last August is when we actually started development. And since then, we've come a really, really long way. And what we're trying to do is democratize digital marketing and sales tools for the WordPress community that didn't previously exist. As far as I'm aware, we're the first fully featured CRM and marketing automation, that's the key one, platform that's actually built specifically for WordPress. Me personally, this isn't my first go around in actually producing a WordPress plugin. I used to produce a plugin called Formlift, I still produce technically a plugin called Formlift, which is for our main competitor, Infusionsoft, or one of our main competitors, a very popular CRM. And we produce that plugin as kind of, I don't know, basically it's just adware now for Groundhogg. And I went to the University of Toronto, did some computer science there. I dropped out in order to pursue this in my third year, so we're all in here.
All right, we're all in. And I've got my great co-host, Sally. Oh, sorry, Cindy. I'm sorry, Cindy. My brain's gone to...
Just watch SpongeBob.
Yeah, there you are, Cindy. I'd like to introduce yourself, Cindy.
Yes, hello everyone. Another Canadian here, Cindy Nicholson from thecoursewhisperer.com, where I help entrepreneurs that are looking to create awesome online courses.
Yep. And before we go into the main interview, I'd like to mention one of our great sponsors, and that's Kinsta Hosting. Kinsta only specializes in WordPress hosting. They're big enough to have all the technical bells and whistles, but still small enough to care. Great support. They host all their websites on Google Cloud, but what you're getting is a superb interface. And the real important thing is you're getting fantastic support 24/7 from their technical support crew, which is all in-house, and they're all A1 trained. They know what they're talking about. You're not just going to get somebody that doesn't really know what they're talking about. They're all superbly trained. And that's what you get. So you get all the bells and whistles, staging site, latest version of PHP. If you're looking to host a membership, learning management, WordPress-powered website, these are the people to look at. And the same goes with WooCommerce. I can't highly recommend them. We host the WP-Tonic website with them. Right, straight into the interview. So I do an earlier show before I do this one, actually, Adrian, and we were discussing a recent news story that MailChimp has said they're really building, they're going to build a full-featured, including website, hosting, the whole...
I have indeed been following this story.
And they got $700 million to do something with it.
Incredible amount of funding.
So, you're in the hot spot of technology in a way. What do you think WordPress can offer against the mammoth that is MailChimp?
MailChimp is indeed a mammoth, and they have an incredible customer base, and I see they're everywhere I go. But what sets products or any cloud or software as a service-based product apart from the WordPress community is that you own nothing if you were to use any of those platforms. So as soon as you stop paying for that platform, or you violate a terms of service, or you are a business type that is not supported by their platform, then any data or any investment that you had into that product, including your financial investment, is worth technically nothing, because they can take that away from you. You don't own any of the data. They have access to all of your clients' data. So if you were looking to own the things that you build and the things that you invest your time in, well, then WordPress offers the way to do that, as it has done for the last half decade or a decade or so, right? So that's really what sets these products like MailChimp or ClickFunnels, for example. If you're looking at things like, and I had mentioned Infusionsoft before, or ActiveCampaign, they all offer tools to build your websites, to build your stores, to build your order pages. But any of that data that you put and invest in that time, you don't actually have any of it personally. And if you wanted to take it out and move it elsewhere, you can't. So that's how they get you. You're stuck with that platform, or else you want to manually rebuild everything using different architecture, different tools, different UI. You have to go through that whole learning curve again. Well, WordPress is kind of like this universal tool that you can basically bring from host to host. You can modify it. You can install plugins that you need, remove the ones that you don't, and so on and so forth. So I think that's what really sets it apart. So while this will certainly be good for the less technically advanced people, the people who don't want to take on the burden of hosting their own website or manage it and keep plugins updated, then this will be a great solution. But for those who are looking to really build their business as a full-time thing, and they're going to be looking at hiring employees and hiring a team, then WordPress will definitely be the way forward, because you get that customizability, you get that ownership of what you're building.
Yeah, I think you put that so great. And also there's hybrids. I know a certain company that runs the hosting and updates all the plugins if you've got a membership learning.
Managed WordPress.
Yeah, I think it's called WP-Tonic, actually. Cindy, got a question.
Yeah, sure. Adrian, welcome. And congratulations on your business.
Thank you.
I can imagine everything that has gone into getting to where you are today. So congratulations.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I actually, maybe you can kind of talk. I'm always interested to hear, the origin story of how things came to be. What were you doing that you saw this need, and what hole are you filling in the marketplace today in terms of how you differentiate yourself?
So before I was doing this, I was an Infusionsoft Certified partner, and I was a partner for a few other CRMs as well. I worked in a digital marketing agency, and my sole responsibility was essentially to make our clients more money using marketing automation, automating a lot of systems processes, automating follow-up for these companies, using these tools, building the landing pages, all of these things. And time and time again, a client would come to us, and before they had even purchased, before they had come to us, they had purchased these platforms, was just paying their monthly donations to these tools because they were extremely expensive or extremely complicated, and they couldn't take the time to get out of their business to actually build these systems and processes. They couldn't take the time to learn it. They were busy, obviously, operating their business, so they had to come to us and pay not an insignificant amount of money to do it for them. And then when we were done, they still didn't have the knowledge, or we did our best to train them, but they still couldn't get out of their business in order to take the time to learn, to continue to manage and keep that system up to date, to create new marketing campaigns, to build pages, to do all of those things. It was still too complicated for them, and they had to log into both their WordPress website, they had to manage this other platform as well, so they need to keep 2 separate logins, and then there were 3 or 4 maybe different API connectors like Zapier, for example, that connected both of them, and they had to manage that, and it was just super complicated. And I got really good at it because obviously I do it for these companies, but it was so frustrating when I would get the torrent of emails maybe about a month after we were done. It's like, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And like, we trained you how to do that. It's like, yeah, but I don't remember. So I thought there just had to be a better way. I had already at this time I had mentioned another product called Formlift, which sole responsibility was to make web forms pretty for Infusionsoft because they're not. And so I had some previous experience, and that has over about 1,000 customers at the moment. So it did okay. It generates modest revenue yearly. And like, well, I can take that knowledge that I have from producing that plugin. And what I can do is I can bring that whole experience, that whole marketing experience, all of the APIs, all of the connections, all of the emails, and if I just bring it into the WordPress where people, in most cases, already know how to use WordPress, they can transfer that knowledge from using WordPress to using Groundhogg in order to run their promotions, their marketing campaigns, and that's exactly what I did. So I built that, and that way they can use that knowledge that they have pre-existing and then transfer it over and start managing their campaigns in relatively short order with minimal roadblocks and minimal learning curve.
And how did you, again, you saw this gap. How did you go through any sort of validation, or like, did you talk to people about what, if they would be interested? Like, what was your process in order to go, yes, I've got a business idea here and I'm going to move forward with it?
Well, we knew there was a market. So currently the CRM industry is something like $18 billion a year. And new ones start every day, and new ones perish every day. As MailChimp just got $700 million to invest in marketing automation. So this is obviously something that many, many businesses need, because you can essentially cut out a lot of manual labor by just replacing it with automation. But the only open source or free or cost-effective alternative that exists didn't work with WordPress actually very well. It required like a whole IT team to set up. Alternatively, you would have to go to, for example, MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, and you'd have to invest in this monthly fee, and then you'd have to spend time learning that. And there wasn't a single marketing automation solution. There are a few CRM solutions for WordPress, and we incorporate that as well, but there wasn't a single one that handled marketing automation for WordPress yet. So we thought we'd be the first, and like WooCommerce before us, we operate on the same business model. Shopify came before WooCommerce, and all of the other CRMs came before Groundhogg, but we're going to kind of be the dark horse and rise up through and proliferate through the WordPress community. It is very low barrier to get started, since we do host it in the WordPress repository. It's a one-click install. And we believe, or at least people have told us, and we've all been validated, we have over 100 clients and reputable businesses already using it. So we know that there's a market for it and that people can be successful using it. So we think, or at least we're aiming for at least the word of mouth and spreading it, and we know there's a market for it and that people can be successful with it.
That's awesome. Jonathan?
Yeah, so I think the other thing that's not pointed out is that with, like, example, I don't want to pick on them, but lead pages, when they bought Drip, they seem to be in a bit of a flux. If you you can buy into a company and they can be the lead at the moment, and then you've invested and they can lose their way a little bit. And I sense that with lead pages and with Drip, they're trying to find they've lost their way a little bit. They would defute that, but that's my honest feeling. And the same, you could say the same a little bit with Infusionsoft, and now they're focusing on a joint product called Keep, isn't it?
It is. That is what it's called.
So you can buy in.
Mixed reactions for that one.
Well, they're advertising enough. I don't know what the advertising budget's been, but every time a lot. So you can really buy into one of these SaaS models, and they could be the leader of the pack, and then they're not, are they? That can be a problem as well, can't it, Adrian?
I don't know if I fully understand the question. I'm going to be honest. So I'm going to.
Well, because you're buying it, you're hoping that they're going to keep up with the other competition. Like lead pages was the darling of landing pages. I think at the present moment, ClickFunnels is pretty, but that has, their landing pages can be pretty ugly, can't they? But there's not much you can do about it, is there?
No. So I think the thing about SaaS products, at least what I've seen, I've been in the email marketing and marketing automation industry for about 6 or 7 years at this point, and they all seem to have, or at least the SaaS products or the SaaS versions, all seem to have a shelf life. Mostly due to the fact that many of them require outside investment in order to keep the lights on. And for example, Infusionsoft has never been profitable. So they need to keep going back to investors, and then it's essentially becomes a race to the bottom with their competitors because they're looking to become profitable, and the investors are looking at their bottom line, and they can't focus on what really makes them great. Lead Pages, they lost their way because they got bought out. Constant Contact got bought out. And when that happens, they cut costs. They're looking around like, what can we cut? What can we turn into a lean operation? And they can no longer focus on what really made them stand out in the first place. We don't necessarily have that issue, simply because based on WordPress, we can focus on what makes WordPress great, which is the fact that it's open source. We can build a community around it. Everybody is open and freely able to contribute to Groundhogg and make it the product that works best for them. We don't operate behind closed doors and keep our IP to ourselves. We freely share it with the world. And most of all, since we have like zero or almost no infrastructure in order to actually support the product, since all of the hosting is done on part of the consumer, we don't need to necessarily invest thousands and thousands of dollars in IT or keeping IT people around. So we don't necessarily have the same issues that growing software as a service companies have. We have a different set of issues. It's not like we're issue free. For example, self-hosting comes with its own kind of roadblocks in a few cases. But it's not a set of issues that would distract us from what our core purpose is, which is helping small businesses grow with WordPress.
That's great. Over to you, Cindy.
So you've got your business. What were the first few months starting up like? What was your strategy in terms of letting people know that you existed and how you differentiated yourself? How did you go about rolling out and kind of introducing your business to the world?
Well, the first couple of months were just development. We have to have a product first. We didn't. Fortunately, the actual first generation of the product didn't take too long to build. It only took about a couple months. And then from that point, we developed a couple strategic partnerships. For example, a notable one is with WP-EP from Grow, Learn, Teach, which is an LMS, and we have a little bit of a cross-promotion going there. We have an extension that allows people to build their courses, and as the courses drip through their account, they can start and stop automation in Groundhogg to send the relevant email sequences and cross-sells and upsells. So that is a nice strategic partnership. We also were introduced to a man named Michael Short, who's with the WordPress as a Service business, and we were able to proliferate Groundhogg through the WordPress as a Service community. So people are building their own kind of like active campaigns and stuff using Groundhogg. And there's a couple other notable partnerships as well, but a lot of it is basically been word of mouth. I get introduced to some pretty brilliant WordPress contributors, and they're like, wow, you've built something really great here. Is there an opportunity for you to come on my podcast? Just as I received an email from Jonathan, and that's how we're able to let people know that this product exists. And generally, the first reaction that we get is it's kind of good, too good to be true, but it's not. We're really here to just help people grow their businesses and almost be the altruistic alternative for marketing automation.
That's awesome. Jonathan.
Well, we're going to go for a break, and when we come back, we're going to be delving in the area of automation a bit more. Back in a few moments, folks.
Brilliant.
We're coming back. We're talking all things automation. Before we continue the discussion, I just want to give you some info. Me and Cindy are doing a webinar on the 30th, Thursday the 30th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's the 7 things you need to know when you're doing your first course. And you really do need to know these things. Cindy's all pumped up, ready to do this. She's going to put up with me as well, so she must be a saint. So how can you join us and learn? Basically, you just go to WP-Tonic webinar, and you'll be able to register free. And like I say, it's going to be a live webinar, and you'll be able to ask us questions after the presentation. Please join us. It's going to be fun. See you. So I think one of the things about WordPress until recently, how did you build a funnel? How did you build something that could compete with, let's say, ClickFunnels again? I think with the page builders, with Elementor, with Beaver Builder, and there's a couple of others, I think some of the problems about building landing pages, is that another reason why you saw opportunity in this market? Because it became easier to build landing pages that could fit into an automation model?
The tools that are available for WordPress to market a company, to sell products, to, exactly as you said, build pages, are developing, I believe, much faster than their software as a service counterparts can even keep up. The amount of user contribution that goes into these products is so much greater than the 10 or maybe 15 IT people that can work in a software as a service product. So the just immense amount of tools that exist for WordPress existed, but marketing automation for WordPress didn't exist yet, which is kind of why we stepped up in to fill that gap, because we have WooCommerce for sales pages, or you have easy digital downloads, or you have cart flows, or any of the notable e-commerce solutions for WordPress. And then you have your Elementors, your Beaver Builders, your WP Bakeries, you have your page builders that exist in order to create some pretty stunning contents and pretty stunning websites. So the only part that was missing was the email, the contact collection, the CRM, the drag and drop. That stuff just didn't exist yet. So that with us, you now have kind of your suite of tools that are available to you. You install Elementor, you install WooCommerce, you install Groundhogg, and you have your basic, essentially like a whole ClickFunnels, as you had noted, operation within your WordPress website for a fraction of the cost. ClickFunnels, for example, is $299 a month US in order to get your email, your pages, and what I would classify as subpar automation. But with $67 a year for Elementor, free for WooCommerce, or unless you need extensions, and free for Groundhogg, you're looking at a pretty nominal cost in order to have what would appear to be a superior solution.
Over to you, Cindy.
So it's interesting you're talking about your strategic partners and one of them being, a LMS provider. So maybe you can give some advice around automate, our audience is course creators, people who have membership sites, what advice do you have for those individuals who are looking to, use something like your product in terms of helping automate, their business?
The biggest holdup that I ever see, and it says somewhere on our website to avoid this at all costs, is at one point you just have to go, and you can't be building stuff forever. Everybody tries to make their product perfect. They try to make sure that there's no typos in every single email. They test and test and test and test and test, and they find a thing. Eventually, at one point, you have to say, screw it, and whatever happens kind of happens, but you're not going to make any money. You're not going to make any change by testing things. At one point, you have to say, all right, well, we have to release this. We have to sell this. We have to get the word out. We have to sell products and make money at some point. So if you're building a course, or you're building a marketing campaign, or you're building a website, at one point you have to just release it to the world, and whatever comes. Your customers will tell you if something's not working. They may not be happy about it when they tell you, but at least they will tell you, and at that point you can give them the discount code to make them go away. But you just have to launch. That is the big thing. When we started, we launched. We had a soft launch in around November, and we had version 1 of the product, which is not nearly as pretty and well put together as it is today. But we had to get something other. We had to start building our audience. We had to start building people. We had to start building our fan base. And some people, have been with us since day one. Some people left day one, and that's kind of just the way that business works. Though you kind of have to put that aside. You can't make everybody happy. You just gotta start producing your product, and you just start getting it out there. You can test, for a few days, but that's it. As soon as you have some semblance of something that might work, just start getting it out there.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And I find course creators in particular, their delay tactic is always, wanting to make sure the content is just right, to make everything just right. And they end up delaying it for that reason. And so that's how it manifests itself with course creation. So that's good advice. Jonathan.
Now, Adrian, it's a problem that's put against WordPress, and also it came up with your plugin, you had a security problem with your plugin, and I've been pushing you on some WordPress groups, and I've been saying to people, go and look at Groundhogg. And then somebody came up and they said, "What? No, don't do that. It had a security problem." What was the problem, and how have you dealt with it, and how have you learned from it?
So while unfortunate, plugins are, and especially when you have someone that is expansive as ours at this point, we have a small development team here with a very, very large product. It is inevitable that things drop through the cracks. But when they do, it's all about how you handle it. So we sent an email out, or we released, as soon as it was made aware of us, we released an update in maybe less than 5 minutes, and it was already pushed in the WordPress repository in relatively short order. We made sure everybody knew that they had to update. This was the update. The biggest problem was that it was an unresponsible disclosure. There was a company called Plugin Vulnerabilities. They were releasing 0-day vulnerabilities in a lot of popular plugins, certainly some more popular than ours, with some automatic monitoring stuff. And we were made aware of it. We fixed it as soon as possible, and we made sure that an update was made. And we released a page called vulnerable or responsible vulnerability disclosure to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future. And we certainly always check over everything twice. But we have a big product, and unfortunately, there will inevitably be other security flaws, and hopefully they don't get released in the same way. That is rather irresponsible on part of this particular researcher. But we're here to make sure that nothing ever truly terrible happens. And as far as I'm aware, there was absolutely no actual harm caused as a result of this breach. So at least we can kind of give that one a thumbs up that nothing actually truly terrible happened.
Yeah, I thought you handled it really well, actually. And I was saying to Cindy that there's this notion that the SaaS don't have security problems, and it's a delusion. What they do is they don't publicize them, do they?
They do not. So we are certainly kept accountable due to the fact that all of our products are open source. All of our extensions, all of our IP, everything is freely available to the WordPress community. The thing about software as a service is that they keep their IP close to heart. So when they do have security breaches, they have certain vulnerability disclosure guidelines where they don't necessarily, in their terms of service, have to actually disclose anything that may have happened. For example, there are a couple notable, not necessarily CRM companies, but just notable people like Inuit and have large databases of email addresses and information that are held close that get breached from time to time. Xerox, for example, and their online platforms. So they might not necessarily release it, and whether or not that, and they also have access to your data just because. So whether anybody or any companies who host their data on these large software as a service products, that data is not private to you. They are freely able to go and use that data in order to compile statistics, lists, sell that data to third-party providers. It's in their terms of service if you look at it. So whether or not it's just a security breach, your data is actually being shared regardless of whether they actually breached or not. So that's another consideration.
Oh, that's great. We're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. Cindy's got to go off early. Hopefully Adrian's going to stay on, and we'll have some bonus content for
sure.
10, 12 minutes. And I'm going to ask Adrian if he had a course, how he would build his initial funnels, what areas he would look at. And hopefully, so you'll be able to watch that on the WP-Tonic website or the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. We normally push the interviews to the YouTube channel first. So if you can't wait for the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll be first to see the interview. So, Adrian, how can people find out more about your product and about you in general?
Well, we have tons of channels to actually reach me personally. So you can reach me at info@groundhogg. That's with 2 G's, by the way, HOGG.io. And that's my personal email address. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can go to Groundhogg, again, with 2 G's.io. And that is our website. You can download the plugin from there. You can also go to WordPress/plugins/Groundhogg, again with 2 G's, and download the plugin freely from the WordPress repository. And we also have a Facebook page, Facebook group, Twitter, you name it. We have all of those avenues in order to be able to find out more about our product and what we can do in order to help your business grow.
That's great. And Cindy, how people can find out more about you and your knowledge, Cindy?
Sure. If you're looking to create an online course and need some help with how to put it together, you can reach out to me at thecoursewhisperer.com or come find me on LinkedIn.
That's great. We'll see you next week where we're going to have another great interview covering marketing, automation, anything that help you if you're looking to build an online course and get that freedom that you're looking for. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
Okay, I'm off. Thank you very much. Sorry, Adrian, I had to leave. And
no worries. It was a pleasure.
But, yeah, pleasure chatting with you. Take care and best of luck.
Thank
see
you.
you later. Bye.
Okay, bye.
So,
how was that?
That was great. We're still recording, so it was fantastic. Thank you. We keep it to about 30 minutes, and then we do some bonus content afterwards. So before we delve in the ClickFunnels, where did you get the name from, Groundhogg?
So the actual origin of the name is my favorite, my family's favorite movie, and my favorite movie is Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
Yeah. And throughout the movie, he goes day in, day after out with no change. And I feel like oftentimes that's the story of the entrepreneur when they're trying to set up these processes. Day in, they're trying new things, and it just doesn't seem to be working. They edit tools, they create campaigns, they send emails, and nothing seems to be working. They just get frustrated, and day after day, they kind of get into a worse and worse situation until they just give up. And that's when, you know, the small business really loses. It's when it becomes such of a hassle in order to set up these tools that they just give up. We wanted to be the change in that kind of recurring cycle of the small business by providing tools that were just easier, simpler, and more cost effective that would allow them to break that continuing cycle and actually create tools that allows their business to grow.
All right. So I don't know if we can do a screenshot. I don't know if you can log in and show a little bit about.
Sure, let me do that.
So if you had a learning, you had a course and you were looking at automation, how would you use it, initially to help with your course or promoting it?
If I were to, and sorry if I answer slowly, I'm just doing some.
He's multitasking, folks.
Multitasking. I'm not very.
It's a challenge, folks. I've thrown him into the deep end, but he's responding manipulatively. I just throw these curveballs to my guests.
So if it were up to me and how I would release the course, first of all, I'd just record maybe like the first 3 videos and just start promoting immediately, regardless of whether the course was done. As soon as you start getting content out there, you're already you're already ahead of 90% of all other course creators. So regardless if you have 1 course, you have 10 courses, you have 1 video, doesn't really matter. As soon as you have one, you can start selling it and then drip it along as you go. I wouldn't focus too much on making sure that all of the systems and processes were in place.
Yeah,
right?
That's why I asked you this question, the first step on how automation might help. So
first things first is obviously get your course. Our current only LMS integration is with WP-EP from Grow, Learn, Teach. Great software that, by the way, highly recommend it. And they have an integration, so essentially they have built-in tools to apply tags. Instead of lists, which is a common denominator among the CRM group, we use tags, which you can apply and remove from contact records in order to put them into different sequences and send them different emails and then segment them to send them broadcasts. And there's lots of things that you can do. But I'll share my screen here to show a visual, obviously, of what probably most people want here. So let's see if I can do that without breaking the podcast.
That'd be right. It's the green button.
Great. There we go. And I want to share this tab. Here we go. Can you see that all right?
Yeah, I can.
Beautiful. So in Groundhogg, we have these things. The tool that's probably going to be the most used is our funnel builder. Now, it's not your typical funnels where you actually design pages, but this is just the back end, the automation, the things that help to move a contact along a particular set of actions that you want them to take, either from they sign up on your site, you want them to buy something, or they bought something, and you're sending them the stuff that they want after they bought it, and anything in between those kind of two actions. So we can just go into a funnel and you can add a new one. If you install the WP-EP integration, there's actually one that comes pre-installed. There's a template that comes installed that says content drip for your courses. So you can add that in and be able to use that in order to kind of at least get an idea of what you're supposed to do in order to send emails and whatnot. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to use a welcome series. Let's assume that someone signed up on your website, they're interested about your course, but they're not ready to buy yet. Then what you would do is you would use our welcome series. You can just copy the shortcode for this form here, place it on your website, request more information, or sign up for a free trial or whatever it is that you want to use. As soon as they do that, then you can run a series of corresponding actions. So you can send them a confirmation email, and what that would do is ask them to confirm their email. So if you're in Canada, for example, we have something, a piece of legislation called the Canadian Anti-Spam Legislation. So you can't send email to unconfirmed email addresses. So we have a lot of built-in tools for compliance across the world, for GDPR, for CAN-SPAM, for CASL. You can edit the text of your email. You can drag in the blocks that you want. So if you want to add your logo, you'd be able to add in your logo, so on and so forth. Just go ahead and close that. And then you can start dripping your content. So you can drag in a timer to wait a couple days. If they didn't interact with the last email, then you can send them another one, prompting them again to interact with it. But it doesn't just stop there. It's not just they do one thing and then you kind of just automate stuff. There's a little bit of conditional logic that you can build into this. Of course, you don't have to if you don't want to, you don't understand it, but it's there for you to use. So once they do confirm their email, you can drag in these things called benchmarks, which allow you to move a contact along. So we have an email confirmed. So once they confirm their email, they're going to stop receiving any emails or any actions that come before this, and they move on to the next portion of your funnel. So like step 2. Quote unquote. And then you can continue to drip them along, and every time they have a tag applied or they fill out another form or they do whatnot, then you can move them further down your funnel and they can get more tailored content to what their preferences become. Lots of good stuff. Eventually to the point where you would drag in a tag that says they bought this course, and then that the prompting to get them to register for a course would stop.
So like you could do kind of like one of the things we do is one of the packages we offer hosting, WP affiliate. And we set it all up for the client. And basically we also give them WooCommerce with Cartflows Pro. So you can have like a one-page checkup with upsells. So I suppose you could integrate that with this as well, can't you?
So if you have WooCommerce installed, Groundhogg comes with a cart abandonment funnel template, which is very popular. So if someone gets to a checkout page or they add something to their cart and they don't end up checking out, then you'd be able to send them emails with prompts to go back to the checkout page with their cart. A special link is there for them to add everything automatically back to their cart. And then you can also auto-generate one-time use discount codes with Groundhogg in order to incentivize them to check out now rather than later. It's like, hey, listen, if you check out like the next 24 hours, then you can get 10% off, and then we can call it a day. And that's something that's really popular as well. So if they don't buy the upsell, then we'll be able to tell that they didn't buy the upsell, and then send them reminders like, hey, listen, you didn't buy this upsell, so go buy it. And here's 10% off.
So, so you got these icons, and have you got an example of a more complicated funnel?
You could create super complicated funnels in Groundhogg, but the whole point of Groundhogg is to keep everything easy. Yeah. Because that's where people get stuck in the weeds. They're testing, it's not working exactly right. We like to keep things super simple. It's totally possible. But we don't want people, they get information overload and they don't even end up realizing what it is they built in the first place. So we like to keep things easy, which is why we have the super linear layout. We don't have lines or arrows going anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I like about it, because I've seen some active campaign. One friend of mine who's an electronic engineer, and he's doing.
It makes sense to those people, right? But for your typical business owner, they went to school for something completely unrelated to computer engineering. They don't know what the lines are going. You got icons over here. You got icons over there. We keep everything super linear and super kind of like easy to understand in order to make even like the least technically inclined people in the world will be able to be successful with this. So that's something that we're really dedicated to providing. So we have this super linear format. You basically just drag in what you want. The contact does a thing, like fill out a form, and that's what a benchmark is. So they've filled out or they've completed X benchmark. They filled out a form, or a new user account is created on your website, or someone upgraded their subscription level to another subscription level, so it comes ready to work with most membership platforms if they use the built-in WordPress role system. A login abandonment one, which is great for LMSs, is if people abandon, you can use logged in a certain number of times or logged in any time in order to run a series of emails, and just lots of stuff that you can use. They page visit, so they do a contact or a record will do one of these things, and then you just do things in return. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if they or they visit X page, we want to send them X email, or we send them a text message, which comes actually as a built-in feature. We send an admin notification to somebody. We apply a tag or apply a note. It's just or action and response, action and response, action and response.
Oh, it's really great. I think we're going to wrap it up now. I just wanted you to show some of the back end, actually, Adrian, because I think it's one of the great strengths of your product that you've got this flexibility and you've got this linear, because like I say, with some of the other competitors, if you're an electrical engineer or you're from that background, it makes sense, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to the average normal business person, does it?
Which is the people who are using WordPress, right? It's not, most businesses don't have an IT team or electrical engineering degrees, right? It's them. That's they are the business. So we want to make sure that the tools that we build are going to be usable by that category of people.
All right, we're going to wrap it up now, folks. We will be back next week with another great guest like Adrian. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.